Yo, what's going on, guys? It's Houston Sports Talk back in the video day. And the New York Knicks have fired Tom Thibodeau, their head coach, who has been their head coach for the last 5 seasons. The team has gone 226 and 174 in the last 5 seasons, and the team has gone 2 seasons in a row now with 50-plus wins. Crazy thing, and this shows how. Look, I'm not saying the East is stacked or anything, because it's not. Especially if you compare it to the Western Conference. But here's what I will say: it's crazy. It's crazy how you go 2023-24 season. They go 50-32, and it was the second seed. They were the second seed in the Eastern Conference, second best next to the Boston Celtics. Then what do we see this year for their team? They go 51-31. And they dropped down to the 3 seed, and they were literally a game or two back from falling to the 5 seed. And they had a pretty good lead of the 2 seed when they got the 2 seed, in the 2023-24 season. But the record even got better this year, only by 1 game. But it's crazy that they dropped 1 seed, even though they added 1 more win at the same time. We're still, the Pacers. You look at the teams that were the 4 and the 5 seed. The Pacers, the Bucks, and the Pistons, who were ahead, weren't very far back from the Knicks at all in the standings this year. So yeah, but it's still been a good 5 seasons you've seen from Tom Thibodeau with this New York Knicks team, as they've gone 226 and 174 in those 400 games. With Thibodeau, you've seen them in the playoffs 4 of 5 seasons with the Knicks, and outside of the 2021-22 season, they've made the playoffs every year, and they've got to the conference finals for the first time in 25 years, and back-to-back 50-win seasons for the first time in a long time as well. But he's still being fired. And I think this is all about the coaching style of Tom Thibodeau, in my opinion. It's the coaching style. It's the not trusting his bench is a big problem. I think that's a big reason why. And I think that's a big reason why Thibodeau is had such a hard time of winning a championship, and possibly I don't think will ever win one. It's because of how he wears out his starters and doesn't trust his bench. And he's a great head coach. I'm not saying he isn't, but you need a championship team needs depth. A championship team needs their head coach to trust on their bench players to step up when needed. Look, I look at the 2 teams in the NBA Finals right now, the Oklahoma City Thunder and the Indiana Pacers. Look how deep their benches are, and look how much trust both of the head coaches, Rick Carlisle and Mark Daigneault, have in their bench players. You want to look at the Boston Celtics bench last year. The Boston Celtics bench last year, when fully healthy, was really stacked. You had Peyton Pritchard, you had Sam Hauser, you had Al Horford, you had other guys who could step up at times. You look at the 2022-23 champion Denver Nuggets. I know the Denver Nuggets now might not have a great bench. They're one of the worst benches in basketball this year. But the 2022-23 Denver Nuggets championship team had a great bench. The team that played them in the finals that year, Miami, had a great bench with a lot of depth on their team. You can go to the go look at the championship before that. The Golden State Warriors in the 2021-22 season had great depth as well. So, I think you look at a lot of teams that win championships, and then you look at both of the teams that eventually end up in the finals, and I think you can look at both teams that are in the finals this year and say that they both have great benches and they both have great depth, and 2 coaches who can trust on their bench players and give them good minutes. And that's something that Tom Thibodeau has had trouble doing in the past. I think you saw him start to get more open to it later in this series against Indiana in the conference finals. You started to see him give more minutes to guys like Landry Shamet and DeLon Wright, and at times those guys really helped. But it's just they needed more from the bench, and you never saw him ever. Here's another thing: you never saw you. I don't know why Tom Thibodeau never tried to do this with the bench struggling, with you needing to go to the bench. Never saw him try to go to a guy like P.J. Tucker. I know P.J. Tucker's older, has not played a lot this year, but you never see him try to go to P.J. Tucker, a guy who has championship experience, a lot of playoff experience. never, tried to give Precious Achiuwa extended minutes. Yes, you saw him a little bit, but not a lot. So I'm not saying those guys need to play a bunch, but if we're talking about being able to, needing to trust the bench more, and go on the bench route and give them more minutes so the starters are a little bit more rested. You can look at some guys that were on the bench that didn't play. But you also could look at the Knicks at the trade deadline not being more aggressive of adding to the bench, which is something with Tom Thibodeau, maybe something he didn't want to do. And I think what's going to be crazy is what happens next for this Knicks team. Does the roster stay and the coach just changes, or does the roster change and the coach changes? I think the perfect fit for this Knicks team would probably be Mike Malone to come in, at the head coaching position. You want a championship head coach in that position. This team wants to win a championship, especially after everything you gave up for Mikal Bridges and Julius Randle. Mikal Bridges and Karl-Anthony Towns and OG Anunoby. Look at all the draft picks and the players they gave up for those guys. You don't want to give that up. So you need to win a championship. That is the goal with this team. They talent-wise, player-wise, they have the capability of doing it. But I think Tom Thibodeau was not the perfect guy in order to get that championship secured. I think Mike Malone would be a better fit, in my opinion. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section, and peace out.